Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Jess Zanoni and I'm the Artistic Director and Co-CEO of the Emerging Writers Festival. I'd like to acknowledge that tonight we're gathering on the unceded sovereign land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to Wurundjeri elders past and present and to those of the lands this broadcast reaches, and that this festival takes place across. EWF celebrates the storytelling, history and creativity of the world's oldest living culture and acknowledges that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you so much for being here. We have a great night ahead, but firstly I'm delighted now to introduce Wurundjeri Elder Uncle Bill Nicholson for his welcome to country. Please welcome Uncle Bill.
Yes, good evening to you all, and thank you for the very kind introduction and a very respectful acknowledgement as well. Look, first of all, I'd like to start off my welcome to country in what I call the basis of anyone's culture. On Wurundjeri land, I don't think I'm too far off telling the truth here. I think we've nearly got the whole world acknowledged and people's cultural identity represented on Wurundjeri land these days, because I spent a lot of time down in Dandenong and Cranbourne. There was over 200 nationalities down there, and I know the world's only got about 240 or 50 country-wise. So to me the basis of it all is language. A writing festival, it's part of communication. Our language is called Woiwurrung, so if you ever hear the term Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, Wurundjeri is it's like your family name or your surname. It's where you're connected to. Woiwurrung is our language. Wurrung relates to your lip or to speak. So Wiminjika, Gabamala Mangil, Balambunyalamba Wurundjeri Balak, Nirina Bill Nicholson. Wiminjika is getting more and more known as a word by more and more people, which is really exciting to see. Some people say Waminjika, so either one's fine. It generally translates as welcome, so welcome everybody. Technically it translates to I ask you to come for a reason or purpose, and obviously that is to celebrate the great writers here tonight. Gabamala Mangil, I love that word, it fascinates me. It sounds hard to say, but it actually rolls off the tongue if you want to try it later. If this is an education session, I'd get you all to try it right now. But it's kind of like a long way to say hi or greetings. Balambunyalamba Wurundjeri Balak is a good day from the Wurundjeri people. I'm very proud to be identified, acknowledged, introduced, and stand here as a community leader or an elder of my people. I was very fortunate to learn my people's story. My people's story was something that if you're around my age group, around 25, 26 if you're really old, I'm joking by the way, you didn't get an education you didn't get an Aboriginal perspective in your education, unless you sort of grew up in a large Aboriginal community or had really strong elders or teachers involved in your school. We're trying to change that. I learnt my people's story when I left school. I found that my people's story it's an amazing story, by the way, but it does test just about every emotion you got. You do feel sadness, you do feel anger, you do feel frustration, but you also feel inspired. And I guess a lot of people here are inspired by the writings of our writers being acknowledged tonight. Very much the Wurundjeri story, I believe, will make anyone feel like that. It's very fascinating, it's unique in its own ways. And one thing I found that my elders were strong, they were staunch, they were wise, they were knowledgeable, and they resisted what they didn't want from imposed colonial authorities that invaded our land. What I was supposed to say at the start, actually, because I don't really look at my notes, I just got them here in case I have a mental blank, but generally, thank you for all the organisers here tonight for allowing me to speak, conduct a welcome to country speech. There's two key things that it means to me. It shows a sign of respect, and respect builds any relationship. It's the real, what I call the roots of the tree. It holds everything up from there. And thank you for that respect. But also a key part is understanding. Understanding that this particular, what generally is a speech these days, but it goes deeper than that. It is, I'll use a contemporary way of explaining it. It's a ceremonial process, and just consider ceremonies as a gathering of people for an important reason. There's many different names for it these days, but we generally call it ceremony from a cultural perspective. So a ceremonial process that allows people to feel culturally safe to conduct their business when they're visiting someone else's land. And that's what we say in our language, Tandarum, or Tandarum Naji. So Tandarum is the ceremonial name of welcome to country. And Naji is the actions within that ceremony. So it has been here, I believe, since humans have wanted to interact with their neighbours. So you could say 65,000 years, you could say since the beginning of time, beginning of human consciousness. Either way, those particular terms are a long time. They're not since the 70s, as someone told me, where Ernie Dingo invented it, which he didn't. And I reckon if he was here, he'd be laughing at that right now. So it's not something that's just been made up. It's something that is more and more being respected and understood, as I touched on. Part of our truth-telling is, it's part of the sadness of our history. The Birrarung, or the Yarra River, the sacred river mist. Yarra was given the wrong name about 190 years ago. We're the last mob left. We're the last community left. That's the sad part. The Maribyrnong mob, as we're aware, are gone, and many of the Werribee mob with our boundary with the Wathaurong are also gone. So I'd like to acknowledge all the fallen clans, men, women and children that lived and thrived within the local landscape and beyond. Sadly, these stories are too common throughout the rest of the country. But I bring them up because, as writers convey stories that they want to tell. History is written as well, is spoken about, is conveyed. And if we don't face these sad truths sometimes, they're easily forgotten and swept under the carpet, and people move on from that. But as an educator myself, I don't want people to be ignorant on our land. We share our story, however tough it is, so people can connect and understand themselves, and also not plead ignorant, because ignorant is one of the core bases of racism. So I'd like to acknowledge my elders past, people like Wonga and Barak. I'd like to acknowledge any of the elders that may be here. I haven't met any of the mob here tonight, but if you're here, I acknowledge you. And that's our Aboriginal community, by the way. That's not organised crime or anything like that. So I know some people never heard that term before. They're probably wondering what I'm talking about. I'd also like to acknowledge community leaders here today. If you want to get a bit of a grasp of what cultural leadership is on this land, the word humility is a key word. People that cared for their community over their own wants and needs and earned the right to speak on behalf of their community through their actions. Environmental leaders here today. Country always needs us all. The pressure on this land has never been greater, such as population and other motivations behind the overuse of resources, for example. We all must try our very best to listen to country and help country be healthy, because in our culture it's as simple as healthy country, healthy people. Parks Victoria stole that saying off us, but that's ours. They just stole it off us about 10 years ago. And culturally, I want people to feel culturally safe on our land to share your stories. We had art, we had song, we had dance, we had story. We didn't have a written culture, but we do have a lot of great Aboriginal writers today to convey their stories. So yeah, share it in any format that you feel comfortable with, because the more stories that are told, the more listening occurs, and listening is the key basis, not hearing. Hearing's like noise, like hearing the rain outside. Truthful listening is part of our culture. That's why we have yarning circles, so no one's got their back on anyone when you speak. And once that respect is created through truthful listening, I believe it's a key basis of what we call Jindiwarabag Balak, which is unity within the community. So keep going with that communication, and feel as safe as you possibly can culturally, cultural safety on Wurundjeri land. The colonial invasion on our land was brutal. And that's a nice word, to be honest. It was worse than that. And we got through just. And but if we want to be a progressive society, we must, and even as a progressive individual, we must sometimes look at some of the mistakes we made. No one's perfect, but mistakes are made, and we must learn from them and take the responsibility to not allow them to occur anymore. And one of those really bad mistakes that this colony created, and unfortunately I call it the DNA of this mindset is still around, is discrimination. Racial discrimination I'm specifically talking about, but discrimination in general. So I challenge everyone when I do Welcome to Countries. It comes from an individual basis. Let's try our very best to eradicate all forms of discrimination, because it divides us, and division creates all sorts of problems. And we don't want that on our land. So to feel truly welcome to Wurundjeri Biik or Wurundjeri country, respect of the land, the people of the land and the culture of land is part of the law which was never ceded, Bunjil's law. So I feel that respect, as I said at the start. So I'd like to say on behalf of myself and community and my ancestors in particular, Wiminjika Wurundjeri Biik, welcome Wurundjeri country to you all. And and have a great night, great gathering, and yes, and congratulations to the riders that are represented here. So, Nongojin, thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Bill. Always love hearing you speak. Welcome to EWF's 2026 program launch. Tonight we celebrate our 23rd festival that features 200 artists and 70 events across 9 days. Since our last program launch 1 year ago, Writers' Festivals have made quite an appearance in the media. If you work at a Writers' Festival, friends and family have likely asked you something along the lines of, yeah, so your festival, is it still happening? It's still on? No dramas? This period has forced custodians of festivals to grapple with what it is that makes their programming special and who is it for. With limited funding to go around, there's a particular need to define this. But this definition also acts as a vital North Star for a festival, to remind ourselves of the meaning of our work and the responsibility that we have to the communities that we serve. These reflections have brought me back again and again to EWF's power in cultivating a collective good, a collective well-being that is rooted in belonging and connection, paired with the utilitarian virtue of art. EWF has the pleasure of offering these things not only to the writers on our lineups, but also to the writers that come to this festival. And this festival is for them both equally, a perfect giving and taking. There's a distinct feeling at EWF that I've observed for the last 4 years working here that I've not quite found anywhere else. It has commonalities with all gatherings predicated on enjoying art and supporting artists, but in writing this speech, I've hazarded a guess at what makes an EW event so unlike anything else. It's a confluence of novelty, opportunity, passion, sheer nerves, improvisation, and a kind of raw pride. Maybe a way I could summarize this is that there's a synergy of perfect imperfection at EWF. There's a workshop in our program this year that reminds me of this phenomenon. You're likely to be familiar with it, and some might say it has become a cliche, but I find it so dazzling and moving that I suspect we will not let it become one. The Japanese art of kintsugi, which, if you're not familiar, is a practice of purposefully illuminating the cracks and imperfections of a work with the understanding that this is what makes it all the more beautiful. The kintsugi of EWF lies in the grace given to our artists to be in process, to be wrong, to be uncertain, awkward, to be shy, to learn, and importantly, to fail. To be invited to simply share with no expected outcome. While it is true that EWF is often deemed a great first festival for a writer, For many will go on to appear at bigger rider festivals. I'm skeptical of the idea that EWF is just a stepping stone along a trajectory of success. If emerging is a self-defined term at EWF, it's also one to claim philosophically or spiritually, a rider always in metamorphosis. There's a reason that many of the same artists apply to appear at EWF even after 10 or 15 years since their first appearance. Not because they're hoping for some kind of breakthrough, but because EWF is a rare space to have the kinds of conversations and performances that you'll be hard-pressed to find a home for anywhere else. It is a strength that EWF is hidden in plain sight. A festival whose success is in large part built on word of mouth, on its goodwill, on its commitment to its riders' artistic freedom of expression. A festival with a generous audience who don't expect precision or glamour, but instead are hungry for an unvarnished, intimate peek into another rider's reality. An audience hungry for the kinds of vulnerability that yields true connection. EWF year-round provides opportunities for riders to get published. Being published is seen as the ultimate goal for so many riders, and understandably, who doesn't want their writing eternally bound into an art object that will outlive them, or scraped and stolen by a large AI conglomerate? But publishing is in fact just one of many paths that a writer can take. EWF may be one of the first times that a writer is paid for their work, but this payment isn't what makes you a writer. A writer who shows up to their local open mic night, who puts on their own reading events, who leads conversations in an underground space, is a writer as valid as anyone lucky enough to land a book deal. This festival is, like some of the greatest writers, impossible to be pinned down, rebellious, experimental, and timeless. A festival that is always surprising you in its breadth and scope of ideas, from content to location or concept. A festival not beholden to convention. A festival that embraces the weird, the niche, the DIY. And this year is no different. This year, you can attend a workshop on novel writing through collage, zine making through shadow puppeteering, using rap as a form of memoir. You can hear readings right in front of the iconic Aqua Profunda Fitzroy pool. Yes, literally by the pool, we have hired extra lifeguards just for the occasion. You can hear a lineup of artists riff on the worst advice they've ever received, or attend a workshop devoted to Octavia Butler's personal writing manifestos. You can discover how it's okay to lie in a song, or how to blend illusion with truth in nonfiction works, and so much more that you will hear about tonight. I'm delighted now to pass over to EWF's guest curator, Moirra, to talk about curating his opening night event, Retribution, and to share some writing of his own. Please welcome Moirra.
Wawa. I'm actually going to start with a performance piece. Just a content warning. It's horror, and it's body horror specifically, so that's your warning. Breeze feels nice. The wind along the coast is still frigid this time of year, even with the return of eel and the slow flowering of murnong. The scars right under the small mounds of your chest throb again. They haven't given you pain in years, not since the first time you kneeled in front of your elders and clenched your jaw through the scarring. Not since the weeping and the infection when your cousin sister had to rinse it with salt water. Long time now. They've been throbbing for weeks, like your head after waking up from dreams, sweat-drenched and panting. Hundreds of eyes as blue as the ocean still staring at you from behind your eyelids. 3 full moons ago, when it was still Barine and the sun had gone into its slumber, 3 comets had dashed across the sky, one right after the other. Then your dreams began. You told your elders on the second morning, but it was decided that the rest of the mob shouldn't be told just yet. Already restless after the omen amongst the stars. You restless too. The constant itching, the throbbing, dark ochre under your eyes and a slow head. The dreams begin like this. Gazing out from Milau, salt water stinging your eyes and heavy in your mouth. Your entire body one constant, dull ache. There's chatter behind you. Sometimes the smell of campfire. You can't look behind. You can't look behind, no matter how much you try to turn your head. Rooted upon the rocks like old man Banksia, the sky bearing down upon you, dark and sunless and angry. Slowly, large shapes appear in the horizon. A terrible silence stalks from behind. Dread blankets your entire body. It's hard to imagine such a dream with the cold slam of the wind. Behind you, the other men are laughing as they sort out the fish and determine if any more food needs to be caught. You find your breaths following the measured rise and fall of your Nawit beside you, long legs dangling just off the rock to dip his toes into the water. Skin still slightly damp from oyster diving earlier, though you're both quickly drying under the gentle caress of sun. How are you feeling? Startling slightly, you glance down. Not so bad. There's a sharp sting as your teeth break through the fragile skin of your lips. Scars throbbing still. He hums but says nothing more, so you turn your head back to the horizon. A shiver runs down your spine. There's nothing but the endless ocean rippling with shine. One lone Bayadin tumbles across its waters, shrieking a hello. The smell of salt water, cold wind, laughter, salt on your tongue. Pain, sudden and bright, slashes across your scar. The rock shreds your knees as you fall, crying out. 3 comets across the sky. Beneath the pain, another, pulsing and pounding as if someone was thumping their hands on your chest. You hear the men run towards you, speaking in rushed tones. It slides across your ears, words incomprehensibly foreign to you. Your throat feels raw and tender, a new ache layering upon the rest, even as your scars feel as though they're ripping apart. Terrible silence. Tissue splintering like bark, your blood becoming fire, several spears gouging your eyes, and still the thumping upon your chest, stalking. The wriggling and twisting, a chewing, burrowing creature, dread blankets your body. With a spray of lungs and heart, the end of the world is birthed from your chest. And across the ocean, 4 large shapes appear slowly on the horizon. Contrary to popular belief, horror is not a white genre. From hiding away under sleeping bags, to whisper scary stories in the dark, to lessons from our elders about what happens when we break protocol, horror has been intertwined with our storytelling for generations. Our people know horror, both as a way to spin a yarn and as truth-telling. We know what a haunting is. We know the end of the world. After all, what's more Lovecraftian than colonization? What's more monstrous than grasslands decimated for sheep and cattle and poisoned rivers and the creeping, harrowing rot of a prison on sacred country? What's more horrifying than the market-selling knockoff Aboriginal Australiana built over a gravesite? But horror has been stolen by whiteness and has a people-sized gap within it. When creating the theme for opening night, I wanted to reclaim the genre from its thieves. Horror that is truth-telling and confrontational, yes, but also a horror that centers Blackfella's rage, our wrath, our retribution. The kind of horror that dares to say that blood spilled is blood owed. Horror that takes the Australian psyche's paranoia of uprising, vengeful blacks and says, yeah, actually. I want horror that is terrifying for settlers and poetry for us. This is retribution. Plenty of things go missing in the night. Careful, colonizer. You might just be next.
Thank you so much, Moira. We're so excited for opening night. And thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. We so appreciate you being here to launch this very special festival with us. If we haven't met before, my name is Bianca, and I'm the program producer at EWF. Thank you. From time to time, I have these funny conversations with people who work in completely different industries to me, and I tell them I'm a producer for a 9-day festival in September. And then they tilt their heads to the side, and I can kind of see their brows knitting together, and they're like, what do you do for the rest of the year? And I can't help but smile when I hear this, because it's honestly a really good question. It's mysterious work that we do as programmers, and I'll always remember my first few days on the job, when one of the Jesses, we're lucky to have 2, admitted that putting a festival together can feel like a pretty nebulous process. And while this process does involve tangible things, like spreadsheets, forms, and invoices, what it's really about is building relationships. Relationships with artists, with collaborators, with the land that we live on, and its many cultures. None of these things exist in isolation. EWF is the result of many, many months of hard work, turning these relationships into something that we can see, feel, and experience together. So before we dive into the program, I just want to say a massive thank you to the EWF team for your tireless effort and passion. Despite being partial to many a tangent in our work meetings, I think we've created something truly incredible that I'm very proud of, and you all should be too. Timely and critical conversations have always been an important part of this festival. And in partnership with Melbourne Writers Festival, we are proud to present Stranger Than Fiction, a panel where writers Hannah Bambra, Ruth Lana, Hannah McElhinney, and Emma Hardy will be reflecting on experiences of medical misogyny, misinformation, and gendered gaslighting. Steeped in lived experience, their works of fiction and non-fiction draw upon strange realities to deliver powerful stories of self-advocacy. Join us on Friday, 11th of September at Naram Nagu Library for what is sure to be a curious and fascinating conversation. Another panel that we're honoured to be platforming this year is called Written Out: How Australian Media is Failing Disability Representation. The panel brings together experienced writers from various corners of the media industry, including Madeline Ruskin, Zoe Simmons, Brandon Fairley, and Jani Blakali. They'll be sharing a range of perspectives, drawing from their work and their own experiences to celebrate how far we've come, reckon with how far we haven't, and dream up the future that disabled, chronically ill, and neurodivergent people deserve. This will be taking place online on Wednesday, 16th of September, so you can tune into the conversation from anywhere in the country. This year, we are continuing to explore storytelling across form with a strong focus on interdisciplinary work. As part of our EWFX stream, we're excited to be working with local audio journal Deco Radio. Deco Radio features work from Australian writers and sonic practitioners who work collaboratively to create curious and critical audio pieces. Over the last 6 months, 8 artists working across sound and written practice have been hard at work developing a new volume of Deco Radio, which will be premiered as part of our festival. On Sunday, 13th of September, we invite you to come and listen to these works at Studio Take Care in Brunswick. This will be a chance to slow down, reflect, and find presence in community. On Tuesday, 15th of September, join us for a cosy night of storytelling and poetry at our event Tapestries of Home. Hosted by local writer Lily Ward at Balam Place, this performance invites artists and audiences to reflect on what it means to be tied to people, places, rituals, and traditions. Featuring regional writers from Katoomba, Mundamia, Milakapiti, and Taiwan, Tapestries of Home offers a diverse collection of perspectives and experiences. So pull up a chair and please make yourself at home. On Papua New Guinea Independence Day, Wednesday 16th of September, a group of Melanesian storytellers will also be sharing tales of their homelands in the iconic and much-loved halls of the Abbotsford Convent. Through words, art and music, artists Ella Rowe, Talia Bowen, Mariani Kalova Kawasa and Koteka Wenda invite you to take part in Tok Story, which is a Melanesian term for the everyday practice of sharing, relating and storytelling in community. This event is called Storytelling in Melanesia, and we would love for you to come listen, learn and share with us as we celebrate the history and culture of Papua New Guinea, West Papua and Fiji. Last, but certainly not least, we have a fun and lighthearted variety night planned for you. So pop it in your calendar. Crush Cabaret is happening on Saturday, 12th of September at Jolt Arts in Northcote. Artists will be opening up their hearts and their diaries for your listening pleasure, and you can expect to hear confessions from writers, theatre makers and songbirds about the times they have harboured a crush. All consuming, perhaps unrequited, but forever a source of inspiration. I'm delighted to now hand over to Chloe Mayne, who will be reading some poems for you tonight. Chloe is a Tasmanian poet and researcher of Trawulaway descent. Her work has been published widely, and she was a recipient of the Martin Bequest for Poetry. Please give Chloe a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here tonight, and congratulations on the launch of a really beautiful program. I'm going to read two poems tonight. The first one is called Larapuna. In Larapuna, the bay is fired orange, and my foremothers are in the wind. The palm of my hand white after long winter, but my eyes are black, I cannot unsee. Sealed bitumen over the bluff like a strap, nor the pink of perfect apple, tamed sweet, a real lady. My foremothers are in the wind, rubbing grease into salt skin. They grapple the belly boulders where I lay, full and fat like a seal. Release the last sighs of blood to the sea, see the tide collect the clots and drift them like weeds. Patrula, patrula, I turn words in tongue of kelp shells scorched by flame. And hurl that apple into the bay, see it melt into the licking waves where it is clear. My foremothers are in the wind, they are gone, always here. This poem is called Country Time. When we are on country time, our toes blacken with that soft powder dust, so fine, close and insistent that it fills the grooves of my flesh as though I were a brittle riverbed, asking for nourishment. Country knows the distinct timbre of my thirst. Each time we come, the coastline tells a different story, and we are different stories too. The dust revealing a matrix of creases that liken me closer to the rocks than before, and in the squint of car mirror, there are fresh salted silvers in my curl roots, bright like fish skin. my child limber lean as a new green gum. It is after the storm and the sand is carved deep, mouthfuls of kelp belched up in bitter heaps. The windswept reeds are arching north, stroked with ferocious brush and obliged to lay for a while. The clouds too at milk horizon stretch and yearn that away, and they lean together, inviting in the dusk. Through summertime, the caravans are knitted here between every bush like dense brows furrowing for space. But in the earliest twig of spring, we are the eager ones, unfurling our tent at the prow, where the bay is our embrace and we are free to watch the boulders change in all their shades, our trade being fast days and sharp nights. While the fire catches on, I tumble a bag of blocks onto the blanket for you. They chitter and scuttle like bright-coloured crab legs. You play as I gut in a bucket of salt water, my hands coaxing, stroking tendrils, swirling blood, and I am in the current responsible for a number of tender bellies, a matter both formidable and marvellous. When the fish is ready, we peel back the wrappings and pluck at it with shining fingers, licking and returning. Then we bring the bones to the tide and release them. The swoop into darkness is a winter swift slice, and while child murmurs slumber from within, I am sitting out here with the embers. The wind has dropped hush and low flames crackle as a bold possum comes snuffling for scraps, keen eyes wide like more moons in the stillness. I bid to become so much that I let my edges loose for a moment, blurring as a brawny nose presses damp and perfectly indifferent into my palm. I am grinning, tears, hearts sparkle and oscillate my gaze to meet the sky, so slowly that I am not moving, somewhere in a breath between the smoke and stars, drinking in the ocean bellows. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for that, Chloe. That was amazing. Chloe is part of our incredible event called Down the Rabbit Hole, which is a roundtable on writers that live with neurodivergence. So be sure to attend that one. My name is Parth, and I'm the associate producer at EWF. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. Writing found me at a very interesting time in my life, and in a very prophetic way. I was attending an open mic event at 16 in my sleepy little hometown. It's obviously what 16-year-olds are expected to do, be pretentious and into poetry. I was only one of those things. I was there to support my friends, all of whom I had made through a Model United Nations conference. So in case you were wondering, I was there because I was pretentious. My friends were the poets. At the end of the event, the founder of Airplane Poetry Movement, Shantanu Anand, walked up to me. Unprompted, he asked me if I'd ever considered writing poetry. I said, no. He looked me up and down and said, you should. Turned on his heel and walked away. Dear listeners, that was it. I was suddenly pretentious and into poetry. But honestly, that really was it. Since then, I have been making sense of my life through poetry. I have moved cities, states, eventually countries and continents, Through so many drastic changes, my poetry has always been what belonged to me, and consequently what I have belonged to. Unquestionably, wholly. Perhaps it is because I was aching for a life I didn't know how to earn yet. Poetry gave me the tools to imagine it and live it. I stand before you now, after traveling the world because of my poetry. It has shown me possibilities like no force could have. It wasn't in loud, grandstanding moments, though. It was in quiet yearning, in gatherings of my closest, in intimate rooms, not with stages, but steeped in ease and everyday familiarity. And okay, sometimes a lot of alcohol. I'm talking about mehfils. Historically, mehfils were intimate South Asian gatherings where music and song were presented in the homes of Muslim royalty. They acted as patrons of the arts. But in the way I was brought up, mehfils became shorthand for my father reciting his favorite ghazal when he was moved by emotion. My mother singing in the garden wistfully about her youth, or an uncle imparting wisdom through shairi after one too many drinks. And so, modern mehfil was born. At EWF's mehfil, we shall have a formidable crew of queer artists, First Nations, Chinese, Australian, Pakistani, and Indian, coming together to immerse you in a poetic yearning and desire. Aziz Sohail, Harrison Abbott, Lucy Shu, and myself. I could go on about how I wanted to depedestalize poetry while I programmed this, how it aims to undo the demarcation between audience and performer, or decenter Western tradition, to make space for more embodied, expansive forms of poetic expression, while simultaneously queer and contemporize the space and subvert its aristocratic roots. But that would be so boring and a little dishonest. I only want to see you come belong, like I have, to poetry. How it has made its way to my bones and become a way of knowing, unquestionably, wholly, queerly. Which brings me to another event I'm honored to present. Pitched to us by Roman Lightolis as part of our Open Artist Call-Out, Indigeneity Illustrated, Art Writing's Next Generation. A lot of indigenous knowledge exists outside the frameworks that define contemporary art and criticism. This framework is more often than not colonial and Eurocentric. But who sanctions what critique? And where does this knowledge come from, if not from histories, ancestries, and bodies beyond the colony's narrow lensing? This panel on Indigenous art and the state of its criticism in Australia with Zali Morgan and Jocelyn Flynn answers these very vital questions. Questions have always been vital to my practice, especially as a copywriter and an occasional film critic. My favorite recurring one was perhaps, couldn't this have been an email? What was this movie maker thinking? But that's because I'm realizing Australia feels slightly allergic to questions and critique. That's why I wanted to put together a band of media critics who felt the same way. So Arbiters or Arbitrary came together. In this panel, Ryan Hamilton, a theatre critic, is joined by Jamie Tram from film and Bridget Christfield from music to discuss the state of criticism in this country. So if you're a letterbox fiend, a Spotify curator, or simply have a flair for the dramatic like me, this one's not to be missed. I also touched upon my experience as a copywriter briefly. I know this is a literary festival, but I have found copywriting to be a sustaining force for me in these precarious times as a writer. I've been lucky to work jobs where my creativity and commercial success have collided. They have fed me. Literally. My most cherished roles have been in food and hospitality media. Strategy and craft come together in so many ways for consumers and businesses, and as a writer, you can really impact this space. On what brings you to the table, you'll get a chance to hear how. From Sebastian Passanetti, who's a chef and contributor to Broadsheet, Situ, Urban List, and more. Ismata Wan, a multifaceted chef, media writer, and producer, and Tyrone Speziale, who runs Heart Media, a leading agency shaping narratives with some of Melbourne's favorite dining spots. To me, Australia is this: a people made of thundering appetites and everything we do to feed them. I want to close on this note. I know this country is at a crucial point. Our literary festivals even more so. I'm proud that my first year at EWF is nourished with the bravery to do more. I want to draw your attention to the students and writers in India who have been time and again protesting against and dreaming about many things, but primarily for an honest and accountable country. I want you to look up what Anita S., Rohit Vemula, Omar Khalid, and more had to say and suffer through. I want to thank those that fight for me and those like me, so I can have the opportunities I have today, here, back home, and everywhere else in the world. I'm so lucky to be in a team that refuses to be monocultural, or worse, monotonous. I'm honored to do this work on lands that people of the Kulin Nation have tended to and trailblazed on long before any of us could have even imagined. I'm thankful to the writers that trust us. I hope all of you reward their courage with attendance. May all our joys collide in the way our struggles and hopes currently do. I look forward to seeing you dream at our events. In the meantime, I'm delighted to hand over the stage to Lucy Shu. Lucy is an emerging nonfiction or memoir writer based in Nam, who's particularly inspired by embodied writing, the radical in the everyday, and queer and diasporic cultures.
Oh my gosh. Good. Oh. Hello everyone. I feel really grateful to be on country with you all tonight. I want to say thank you to you all for coming and being here with me. And I want to say thank you to EWF for having me speak at this year's program launch. The following is an excerpt from my master's thesis called Holding and Being Held, which I submitted just over a month ago. Getting to create this body of work was a really meaningful opportunity for me. In it, I researched the significance of food practices in marginalized communities and the stories that can be told through these practices. I just wanted to give a quick content warning as well, because this piece will reference racial slurs. Bell Hooks' Choosing the Margin as a Space of Radical Openness is a meditation on how language can be grounded in space, in which she describes speaking and writing as both enveloping the present, but also the multiple voices within us. Writing from a personal experience growing up in the south of the United States as an African American woman, Hooks describes the tension between language and space, tracing it all the way back to her childhood home place, where the smells of her childhood, hot water cornbread, turnip greens, fried pies, were deeply enmeshed with words thickly accented Black Southern speech. My chest grows heavy as I read her words. There is an undeniable pain that comes from acknowledging my location of politics as a Chinese Australian woman who lives and works on Wurundjeri land as a settler, but also as a daughter of immigrant parents who struggled significantly to create a new life for themselves and for their family. I wish to acknowledge the complexities of this location of politics as someone who experiences inerasable oppression while still benefiting from the structures of Australian colonialism. On my first day of kindergarten, I spent the whole morning crying to Mama at a small table in the corner of the centre, begging her not to leave me. I had been struggling with a severe case of eczema, my legs bandaged up to prevent scratching, and my face peeling with dry skin flakes. Before even entering the centre, I knew the other kids would try to avoid me. But I believe the eczema was not the only reason for my deep anxiety. Kindergarten meant no more Chinglish, the language of warmth between my family and I. Chinglish, as my family called it, was a blend of English and Chinese spoken with each other at home. It was neither a language understood by our extended family when we visited them in China, nor a language understood by anyone at school or at work. Chinglish was a bridge into both realms of existence for Mama, Baba, Gogo, and I. At kindergarten and primary school, I became increasingly anxious of saying the wrong words when it seemed to come so naturally to the other kids who had grown up with English. It became a point of embarrassment when I replaced an English word with a Chinese word. So the solution to me seemed to be speaking less and staying quiet more often. From kindergarten onwards, I became inexplicably shy. I adopted English as my primary language and involuntarily shed my Chinese. Once, during primary school, I came home crying after my classmates were pulling their eyes back and chanting Ching Chong around me at lunchtime. Mama seemed unaffected by what I had told her. She did not hug me, nor did she wipe my tears away. She simply told me to ignore them. Hearing her response at the time made me want to cry even more. I wanted so badly for Mama to console me, for her to hold me in her arms and tell me that everything would be all right. I imagined her approaching the school office and demanding punishments be given to those kids. I wanted so badly for the world to see me, for something, for anything, to let my classmates experience exactly what I had experienced. But that never happened. Looking back now that I'm older, I understand. I understand that my mama knew that in order for me to survive the outside world, I had to learn to build my own sense of resilience, even if all I wanted in that moment was to be comforted. Over the years, my mother attempted to coax more confidence out of me in whatever way she knew how to. She pushed me into situations where I had to be eloquent and steadfast. For example, writing formal letters of complaint to the local council on her behalf, or booking important appointments over the phone at the age of 10. Even on days when she came home exhausted from navigating racist comments from her co-workers as the only Asian employee in the office, or being harassed on the way home, or being stressed about leaving me at home alone for too long because she simply couldn't afford working less for our family, she still managed to gather herself together to make a nourishing dinner for us without any hesitation. Though this is certainly not the same lived experience as Hooks describes, whose work is set in the context of growing up in 20th century America under racial discrimination and segregation, there is a certain level of similarity between the lived experience that Hooks writes about and the lived experience that I write about. I recognize what Bell Hooks means when she writes about how Black mothers understood intellectually and intuitively the meaning of home place in the midst of an oppressive and dominating social reality, of home place as site of resistance and liberation struggle. My mother, having experienced much worse racism and sexism than I ever have when she moved to Australia, understood the significance of developing my tenacity and my resistance at home. Sexism still delegates to females the task of creating and sustaining a home environment in 21st century Australia. And for my mother, who was a non-native English speaker, who immigrated from China to Australia with no university education, no promise of financial stability, and later became a widow and single mother of 2 children. The brutal, harsh reality of racist oppression, of sexist domination, did not stop her from providing unwavering care and support for my brother and I in our home place. As far as I can recall, memories of my home place as a child have revolved around food and language, much like Hook's recounts about the smells of her childhood. For me, home was pork and chive dumplings on a weekend, with Mama reminiscing on her early memories of learning the generational skill of how to fold dumplings from her Baba. Home was red braised pork belly, with me and Gurgur fighting over the fattiest pieces whilst Mama scolded us. On hot summer nights, home was the earthy smell of mung bean soup boiling on the stove, Baba occasionally allowing me to sneak a spoonful of brown sugar into my bowl. Home was at the dining table after dinner, Baba patiently and steadily peeling apples for Gurgur and I with a paring knife and a small dented aluminium bowl bought from a $2 shop. Sometimes I think back to my memories of childhood and the certainty I felt in knowing that every night after dinner, Baba would be sitting at the table peeling apples for us with his knife and his tiny aluminium bowl. Back then, every one of those nights, when I would be crunching on those peeled apple segments, I never quite understood how much of an act of love and consideration it was for my Baba to do this for me. The sweet tartness of those apples is a flavour I can never forget. Now, I let the gratitude fill me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Lucy. That was beautiful. Our next speaker tonight is Ella Rowe. Ella is a multidisciplinary artist, poet, community hairdresser, cultural leader, podcaster and educator, business owner, and solo mum. A proud Papua New Guinean and Australian woman whose heritage directs her values and approach, creating contemporary works that centre topics such as womanhood, coming of age, culture, identity, gender, feminism, hair ritual, welfare, spirituality, and sexuality. Her mediums also include painting, photography, film, collage, and writing. With a passion for social justice, her work uses layers of symbolism and motif to tell true stories as well as project manifestations. Her new paintings are collaborations with her daughter, Kemiana. Please welcome Ella.
Thank you so much for having me. I felt imposter syndrome before I came tonight, and after hearing everybody speak and share and scream and carry on and and to see my neighbour in the audience and one of my clients and all these smiling beautiful faces, I feel really great to be here. I feel so honoured to share this space with all of you. Pelo mato translates to mop of hair. I had to shave my hair most of the time due to maintenance and school procedures. Our hair was always sacred. We were taught to be embarrassed of our bushy hair, unruly. Covered it up with a wig for 30 years. He actually cut it off with a neck trimmer, pulled my curl forward like a fringe and just cut it off. Never went to the hairdresser, never got a haircut. We only cut our hair when we are mourning. I don't know what my natural hair looks like. The teacher said, "Jasmine, what's with your hair today? Looks like you've got dreadlocks." This was the one day Jasmine wore her curls out. From at least 4 years old, mine was chemically relaxed. The message was clear: smooth your hair to be accepted at school. At home, it was celebrated through various hairstyles. In contrast, at school, my hair was seen as weird and undesirable. My mum cut it short so that she didn't have to deal with it. Have you considered permanently straightening your hair? Because it would look better that way, less crazy, messy, wild. I didn't mean for it to get so matted. I just didn't know what to do with it. Buffy, difficult, Sideshow Bob, Marge Simpson. You look like Macy Gray. It's very disco. Nappy-headed. I got petted on the head. Did you get electrocuted? My afro is what keeps me, a young West Papuan woman living in exile, connected to my Melanesian ancestors. Growing up, I was always comparing my curls to other people's straight hair. I always tied it up, flattened it, and stretched it out. My mum wore her afro like a crown. As a mixed heritage child, this was so important. In her mind, the way she saw herself looked very different from how she actually appeared. She remembered vividly drawing herself with straight black hair until she was 13, when her friends pointed out to her that her drawing actually didn't resemble her. Don't touch my hair. I am a proud Wamiran woman. I come from the Wadabor clan in Milne Bay Province. I own LV Studios, which is a natural hair salon, or I like to call it a sanctuary, where people with curly texture come to me, and I really do believe that the work that I do is healing through my hands and healing through my ancestry. And I wrote this poem called A Love Letter to My Afro because I really wanted people to understand like how much my hair means to me, but also to give permission to others to feel that for themselves. And maybe for those who might not have that connection to their hair to think about it. So this is called A Love Letter to My Afro. Dear Afro, you frame me so perfectly. My aura, a haze of softness. Transparent and inviting, you glow and rise like the sun. And my ancestors, picked perfectly for me, elevating my height and shape, adding curves to complement, I lay down on you, soft pillow of delight. You tell my night stories, dreams of passion, of deep rest, I sink into you. You cushion my fall, wrap my face in cotton flesh. You drink fresh mornings and regenerate. You spring back and bounce me into the day. Afro, you allow me to change. You with all your styles and movement. Afro, you're adaptable. You can shrink to fit and expand to take up space. You pride, you vibe, you are me. You are my crown glory. You mold to my emotions, understanding and reminding me that I am great. You lean with the wind that directs me, like sails to travel through life's challenges and joys. Afro, you're my mother's Afro. You are in the garden tending to nourish our people. You are resilient, holding seas and oceans. You absorb the heat and hydrate internally. As you allow pain and purpose, love, you drip across hard-working faces and expressions. Afro, my baby grips you, strong and a fist full of perseverance, protection and care. I love you, Afro. You tickle and touch loved ones. Come closer, you flirt, You're beautiful. You gave me purpose and flow. Afro, you helped me to grow. Afro, you are my comfort and my goals. Afro, Afro, Afro. Lewa belong me, which means heart of mine. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Ella. Can we give it up for Ella's pants as well? So gorgeous. What a feast. So many beautiful readings and speeches and performances. Thank you so much to all our artists and to Bianca and Path for their amazing speeches as well. We are approaching the end of the evening, but I did want to take a moment to celebrate this year's amazing festival artwork. Artists Louisa Hansel and Tamara Marrington have named the piece Moonwriting, and it emerges from their friendship and shared painting dialogue. Louisa and Tamara have shared that to them, this piece occupies a space between intuition, memory, symbolism, and abstraction, a visual terrain that feels at once familiar and elusive. At its heart, Moonwriting reflects a shared commitment to painting as a process of discovery, offering a glimpse into an imagined inner world shaped through friendship, care, and painting together. It's a collaborative artwork that I think perfectly encapsulates the spirits of EWF, and I hope all our artists share their EWF events with pride with this artwork as its signifier. And yeah, before the formalities come to a close, I did want to mention that as of tonight, we have 2 limited capacity opportunities open. Our expressions of interest are now open again to anyone keen to table their wares at our closing night lit fair. So any and all zines, comics, artworks, or games. Our EOI is open now, so please do fill it out. It's now live and tables will be snatched up quickly, so get in quick. And we're also excited to launch a brand new initiative called Story Share, which is happening both here in Naarm, Melbourne and Boorloo, Perth, on the last day of the festival. You can register for a ticket for the express purpose of meeting fellow writers in an intimate group to build a new writing community in your local area, to share and hear works in progress, eat snacks, and talk about being a writer. Registrations are open and it's first in, first served. Well, you can now see the full program at emergingwritersfestival.org.au and begin booking your tickets. EWF is a non-profit festival, so please consider making a tax-deductible donation if you do have the means and if you want EWF to continue platforming emerging writers for many years to come. Many thanks to give. Thank you to the Wheeler Centre for hosting us this evening. Thank you to Kang and Glenda for interpreting tonight. Thank you so much to the Moat for serving drinks. Please do keep knocking them back for another hour in the space as you explore the program. Thank you to Penny for our new website. Thank you to Jimena Jimenez for the design of our print collateral, to Louisa and Tamara for the artwork. Thank you to our major partners, Creative Australia, Creative Victoria, City of Melbourne and Hachette Australia. And my biggest thanks to the EWF team. There's only 6 of us and I really love you so much and I love us. To my brilliant co-CEO and EWF's Executive Director, Jess Layden. To our amazing board and board chair, Gabrielle Ryan. To Henrietta, Margarita, Bianca, and Path, thank you. Yeah. And to tonight's photographer, Linda, to our incredible, to our incredible front of house and volunteers, festival friends, and cherished partners, thank you. We can't wait to see you at our opening night on Thursday, the 10th of September, 6:30 p.m. at Victorian Trades Hall for Moira's brilliant event, Retribution. Please grab a program, grab a drink, and get booking, and I'll catch you in September. Thank you very much.